The massive alien warship hung silently in the darkness of space, its sensors focused on the drifting vessel before it. Admiral Rex of the Concordat military stood on his command bridge, his four eyes narrowed as he studied the strange ship that had wandered into their territory. The vessel was long and cylindrical, with what appeared to be damage along its outer hull. Ice crystals sparkled around the wounds in its armor, catching the light from distant stars. "Status report," Rex demanded, his scaled fingers tapping against the command console. "The unknown ship appears to be of basic construction, Admiral," his science officer reported. "We detect approximately 1,000 life forms aboard, all in some form of suspended animation. Their technology seems primitive by our standards. They're using basic fusion drives and what looks like an outdated navigation system." Rex clicked his jaw thoughtfully, a habit he'd developed over his 30 years of military service. The Concordat had encountered many species during their expansion across the galaxy, but this was different. Most species sent diplomatic vessels first, or whole fleets of colony ships. This single vessel was unusual. "Life support?" he asked. "Failing, but stable for now. The damage to their hull seems recent, perhaps from passing through an asteroid field. Their shields couldn't have been very strong." The bridge crew worked efficiently around him, gathering data and analyzing the strange vessel. The ship's markings were in an unknown language, but one symbol was repeated prominently on the hull: Pioneer. Rex opened a channel to the Concordat High Command. Within moments, the stern faces of the military council appeared on his screen. 5 of the most powerful leaders in their civilization looked back at him, waiting for his report. "High Command, we encountered an unknown vessel in Sector 7, Rex began. "Initial scans suggest it's a colony ship from an uncontacted species. The ship is damaged but intact. The crew appears to be in cryogenic suspension." Requesting instructions, the council members exchanged looks. Commander Vix, the eldest among them, leaned forward. "Any signs of weapons?" "Nothing significant," Rex replied. "Their technology appears to be at least 2 centuries behind ours. They're using primitive fusion drives and basic shield systems." "A single colony ship," another council member mused. "How strange. Most species send fleets, or at least scout vessels first." "Perhaps they lack the resources for more ships," Vix suggested. "Or this could be a scout vessel disguised as a colony ship. We must be cautious." The council debated for several minutes. Rex waited patiently, knowing the importance of this first contact situation. The Concordat had built their empire through careful expansion and strategic thinking. Every new species encountered was both an opportunity and a potential threat. Finally, Commander Vix spoke again. "Admiral Rex, your orders are as follows. Capture the vessel intact. We want to study their technology and learn more about this species. If they prove peaceful, we may have found new subjects for the Concordat. If not..." He left the sentence unfinished. "Understood, High Command," Rex acknowledged. "We'll begin recovery operations immediately." The communication ended, and Rex turned to his crew. "Prepare the tractor beams. I want that ship in our main hangar within the hour. And double-check those life support readings. We don't want any accidents with our guests." As his crew carried out their orders, Rex watched the mysterious ship grow larger in their viewing screen. Something about this situation bothered him, though he couldn't quite identify what. Why would any species send just one ship? Where had they come from? And why weren't they broadcasting any kind of distress signal despite their apparent damage? The Pioneer drifted silently as the Concordat warship's tractor beams locked onto its hull. Ice crystals scattered like stars as the damaged vessel was slowly pulled toward the massive alien hangar. Inside, 1,000 humans slept in their cryogenic pods, unaware that first contact was about to go very, very wrong. Or perhaps exactly according to plan. The Concordat's research team moved carefully through the captured human vessel. Their scanners hummed softly as they studied the ship's systems, which appeared surprisingly basic for a long-range colony vessel. Lead researcher Max kept detailed notes as his team worked, his antenna twitching with excitement at each new discovery. "These humans are full of contradictions," he muttered to himself. "Their life support systems are primitive, yet their cryogenic pods are remarkably sophisticated." The research team had spent 3 days examining the ship since its capture. Admiral Rex watched from the observation deck, growing more impatient by the hour. Something about this situation still bothered him. "Anything unusual to report?" Rex asked through the communication system. Max looked up from his scanner. "Yes, Admiral. We found several modifications to the ship's systems that we can't explain. Some components seem to serve no purpose, while others appear to be running on minimal power." It's as if. A loud hiss interrupted him. The research team spun around as one of the cryogenic pods began its wake-up sequence. Then another, and another. "What did you do?" Rex demanded. "Nothing, Admiral." Max backed away from the pods. "We were just scanning their computer systems and—" The first pod opened with a soft click. A human male sat up slowly, his movements careful and deliberate. He wore a simple gray uniform with no markings. His eyes scanned the room, taking in the alien researchers with an unsettling lack of surprise. More pods opened, each human awakened with the same controlled movements, immediately assessing their surroundings. Within minutes, 20 humans were awake, all wearing identical gray uniforms. "Greetings," the first human said, his voice steady. "I am Captain James Walker of the Pioneer. I see our ship has been brought aboard yours." Rex rushed down to the hangar, arriving just as Walker was helping another crew member to their feet. The human captain turned to face him, and Rex was struck by his calm demeanor. There was no fear in his eyes, no confusion at seeing aliens for the first time. "You speak our language," Rex said, his suspicion growing. Walker smiled slightly. "We've had time to learn. Now, if you'll excuse us, we need to begin repairs on our ship." "Repairs?" Rex's scales bristled. "You are prisoners aboard a Concordat warship. You will answer our questions and—" "No," Walker interrupted politely. "We are not prisoners. We are a military vessel experiencing technical difficulties. Under galactic law, you are required to render assistance or let us proceed on our way." The humans had already spread throughout their ship, checking systems and beginning repairs with practiced efficiency. Rex noticed they moved like soldiers, not colonists. "Military vessel?" Max asked, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. "But your ship's design, your technology, is exactly what we wanted you to see," Walker replied. He turned to a console and pressed several buttons. Hidden panels throughout the ship slid open, revealing sophisticated equipment that had been invisible to their scans. Rex's blood ran cold. The primitive ship was transforming before his eyes. Sleek weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments. Advanced sensor arrays powered up. The ship's energy signature changed completely. "Stop what you're doing immediately," Rex ordered, but the humans ignored him. Walker looked at him with something close to pity. "Admiral, I suggest you contact your superiors. They'll want to hear this directly from me." He paused, then added, "And you might want to tell them that firing on or attempting to capture a human vessel is considered an act of war." Rex stared at the human captain, finally understanding what had bothered him from the start. No species would send a single colony ship into unknown space, because this was never a colony ship at all. The Concordat High Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. 5 council members sat at their elevated seats, looking down at Captain Walker, who stood calmly in the center of the room. Admiral Rex watched from the side, still trying to understand how this situation had spiraled out of his control so quickly. "You claim to be a military vessel," Commander Vic said, leaning forward in his chair. "Yet you entered our space alone, damaged and seemingly helpless. Why should we believe anything you say?" Walker clasped his hands behind his back, his posture relaxed but alert. "We entered your space precisely as we intended to. The damage to our ship was carefully engineered. We wanted to see how you would react to a seemingly helpless vessel. A test. Another council member's scales changed color with anger. You dare to test the Concordat? Of course we did, Walker replied. Earth detected your empire's expansion 3 years ago. We've been watching, learning, and preparing. Your tendency to absorb or destroy weaker species concerned us. The chamber fell silent. Rex noticed how Walker's words had hit home. The Concordat's expansion policy was not usually discussed so openly. Earth. Vix's voice carried a hint of mockery. We've never heard of your world. Your technology, despite your hidden modifications, is still far behind ours. Your species must be young, barely able to reach the stars. Walker smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Commander, Earth has been watching your civilization for longer than you've had faster-than-light travel. We've mapped every system you've conquered, noted every species you've absorbed or destroyed. We know your patterns, your tactics, your technological capabilities. If what you say is true, Rex spoke up, why reveal yourselves now? Why risk entering our space at all? Walker turned to face him. Because official first contact was inevitable. We needed to know if peaceful coexistence was possible. He paused, letting his words sink in. Your response to our ship has been informative. Are you threatening us, human? Vic stood, his massive frame towering over his desk. One ship, no matter how well armed, cannot stand against the might of the Concordat fleet. Who said anything about one ship? Walker's question hung in the air like a blade. Did you really think humanity would send a single vessel into unknown space? That we would risk our first official contact with no backup plan? Rex felt his scales tighten against his skin. The human's confidence suddenly made terrible sense. We demand the coordinates of Earth, Vix declared. Your world will join the Concordat, whether peacefully or by force. Your deception will be punished. Walker shook his head slowly. I don't think you understand. This isn't a negotiation for Earth to join your empire. This is a warning. He started walking toward the chamber's main display screen. May I? Before anyone could object, Walker pressed several buttons on his wrist device. The screen came to life, showing a map of Concordat space. Dozens of red dots appeared throughout their territory. Each red marker represents a human observation post. Walker explained. We've been in your space for years, watching, hidden by technology you haven't discovered yet. This ship, the Pioneer, was just the first to let you see us. The council members stared at the map in shocked silence. Their entire empire was compromised. You have two options, Walker continued. You can release our ship and open diplomatic channels for peaceful cooperation between our peoples. Or, he let the sentence hang unfinished. Or what? Rex asked quietly, already suspecting the answer. Walker turned to face the council one last time. You really should have just let us pass. What happens next depends entirely on your response. But remember, we didn't send just one ship. We never do. Back aboard the Pioneer, Captain Walker and his crew worked with practiced efficiency. The Concordat guards watched nervously as hidden panels continued to open throughout the ship, revealing technology they couldn't understand. The vessel's true nature was emerging like a butterfly from its cocoon. Sir, First Officer Tom called from his station. The quantum array is ready. Walker nodded, ignoring the confused looks from their alien observers. Begin the sequence. Admiral Rex burst into the hangar, 4 armed guards following close behind. Stop whatever you're doing immediately, he ordered. The council has not finished their deliberations. They've had enough time, Walker replied without looking up from his console. We gave them a chance to choose diplomacy. Now we're moving to Phase 2. A soft hum filled the air as previously hidden antennae extended from the Pioneer's hull. The ship's energy signature changed again, making the Concordat sensors go wild. What is that technology? Lead researcher Max asked, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his fear. Our scans can't make sense of it. Quantum communications, Tom explained, his fingers dancing across his control panel. Far beyond your standard faster-than-light systems. Rex stepped forward. You're bluffing. Our sensors detect no other human ships within 50 light-years. Who could you possibly be signaling? Walker finally turned to face the Admiral. You still don't understand, do you? We've been watching your empire expand for years. Did you think we'd send a scout ship without support? A bright pulse of energy shot from the Pioneer's antennae, passing through the Concordat ship's hull as if it wasn't there. The alien sensors couldn't track it, couldn't even detect which direction it had gone. What did you just do? Rex demanded. I sent a signal, Walker said simply. Whether it brings friends or enemies depends entirely on what your council decides in the next few minutes. Commander Vix's voice boomed through the hangar's communication system. This is pointless theatrics. Your signal, if it even was a signal, will take days to reach anyone. By then, your ship and crew will be under our complete control. Walker checked his watch. Actually, I'd say we have about 10 minutes before things get interesting. The Concordat guards shifted uncomfortably as the human crew continued their work, showing no signs of worry. They moved with the calm assurance of people who knew exactly what was about to happen. Sir, Tom called out, we're receiving acknowledgement signals. All units confirm ready status. Rex's scales paled. What units? There are no other ships out there. Admiral, Walker said, almost gently, did you ever wonder why humans would send just one ship into unknown space? The answer is simple. We didn't. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the Concordat vessel. Rex rushed to a nearby display screen, his 4 eyes widening in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. Energy signatures are appearing all along our border systems. Hundreds, thousands of them. Walker smiled. Those would be our friends. You see, Admiral, humans never send just one ship. We send entire fleets. The only difference is, until now, you couldn't see them. The display screen showed ruptures forming in space, tears in reality itself that the Concordat science couldn't explain. And through these ruptures came ships. Human ships. Warships. The Pioneer was never just a scout vessel, Walker explained as chaos erupted around them. We were bait, a test to see how your empire would treat a seemingly helpless ship. You failed that test. Rex stared at the screen, watching as more and more human vessels emerged from quantum space. The ships were massive, advanced, and clearly built for war. Everything he thought he knew about human technology had been wrong. Time's up, Walker announced as his communication panel lit up with new signals. I believe your council will want to resume our discussion. This time, perhaps they'll be more interested in peaceful diplomacy. The Concordat's command center had descended into barely controlled chaos. Emergency alerts flashed on every screen as reports flooded in from border systems. Admiral Rex stood frozen, watching as more human warships continued to emerge from the strange quantum ruptures that his sensors couldn't properly scan. Fleet count now exceeds 3,000 vessels. A junior officer reported, his voice shaking. They're forming a containment grid around our territory. Commander Vix's hologram appeared in the center of the room, his scales now a pale shade of gray. How did we miss this? How could they hide an entire battle fleet? Because you weren't looking for what you didn't understand, Captain Walker explained, stepping into the command center with his first officer Tom. Their Concordat guards followed nervously, weapons held ready but useless. The main display showed the human fleet taking position. Their ships were sleek and powerful, nothing like the primitive vessel they'd pretended the Pioneer to be. Each one bristled with weapons and technology that made the Concordat's best scientists scratch their heads in confusion. Admiral, a sensor operator called out, the human vessels are using some kind of space folding technology. They're moving instantly between positions without using normal drive systems. Walker nodded. Quantum displacement drives. We've had them for decades. While your empire was busy conquering lesser species, humanity was advancing in ways you never imagined. A new hologram appeared, a human admiral aboard the largest warship. His uniform was crisp and dark, adorned with simple gold markings of rank. "This is Fleet Admiral Davis of the Earth Defense Force," he announced. "The Concordat's actions against our scout vessel constitute an act of war under galactic law. However, we are prepared to show mercy, if you're prepared to listen." Rex watched as his commander scrambled to respond. The Concordat had never faced a situation like this. They were always the superior force, always the ones making demands. "Your deception was elaborate," Vix said, trying to maintain his dignity. "The damaged ship, the primitive technology. We needed to know your true nature," Davis replied. "Would you help a seemingly helpless vessel, or would you attempt to capture and exploit it? You made your choice, and now you face the consequences." Walker stepped forward. "Your sensors are probably telling you interesting things about our fleet right now. Notice how they can't track our quantum signatures, can't identify our power sources. That's not an accident." The Concordat scientists were indeed frantically trying to analyze the human ships. Their best scanning technology seemed primitive compared to whatever the humans were using. "Impossible," Max muttered from his research station. "Their energy readings, they're operating on technological principles we've never seen. The power output alone should be impossible by your understanding of physics," Tom suggested with a small smile. "That's the problem with assuming you're the most advanced species in space. You stop looking for better solutions." Fleet Admiral Davis's voice carried across all channels. "Here are our terms. The Concordat will immediately cease all military expansion. You will release any captured species that wish to leave your control. And you will enter into diplomatic relations with Earth as equals, not conquerors." Rex watched as the human fleet demonstrated their superiority. Ships blinked in and out of existence, reappearing instantly across vast distances. Their weapons remained powered down, but the threat was clear. This was technology that could tear the Concordat apart if they chose. "How?" Vix asked finally. "How did you hide all of this from us?" Walker's answer was simple. "We didn't send one ship. We sent our entire fleet, hidden in quantum space, watching and waiting. The Pioneer was just the key you needed to turn to unlock the door." He paused, looking at the shocked faces around him. "The question is, what will you do now that the door is open?" The Concordat's Grand Council chamber felt much smaller with the human fleet hanging in orbit above their capital world. Commander Vix sat across from Fleet Admiral Davis, while Captain Walker stood nearby, watching the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. "Let me be clear about what we've discovered," Davis said, placing a small device on the table. A hologram sprang to life, showing a detailed map of Concordat space. "These red markers show every military installation you've built in the last 20 years. The blue ones show your secret research facilities. And the green ones," he paused meaningfully, "show the worlds where you're holding captured species against their will." Vix's scales rippled with shock. "How could you possibly know all this? We've had quantum observation posts in your territory for over a decade," Walker explained. "Your sensors can't detect them because they exist partially in quantum space. We've been watching everything." Admiral Rex, standing at attention behind his commander, felt a chill run down his spine. The damaged ship, the Pioneer, it was all just to force us to reveal ourselves. "Precisely," Davis nodded. "We needed to know if you would help a seemingly damaged vessel or try to capture it. Your response told us everything about your empire's true nature." The hologram changed, showing recordings of Concordat ships attacking and capturing vessels from other civilizations. The evidence was overwhelming and impossible to deny. "Your empire has grown through conquest and intimidation," Davis continued. "You see any technologically inferior species as potential subjects to be absorbed or eliminated. We needed to know if peaceful coexistence was possible." "And now?" Vix asked, his voice barely steady. "You'll conquer us instead. Replace our empire with your own." Walker stepped forward. "That's the difference between humans And the Concordat, "We don't want to conquer you. We want to change you." A new figure appeared on the chamber's main screen, the President of Earth's United Council. Her expression was firm but not unkind. "People of the Concordat," she began, "Earth has watched your civilization for many years. We've seen your technological achievements, but also your aggression toward others. Today, we offer you a choice." Davis laid out a data tablet containing the human terms. First, all captured species will be given the choice to leave Concordat space. We'll provide transportation and resources for their relocation. Second, Walker added, your military expansion stops immediately. Any future growth must be through peaceful negotiation and mutual agreement. And third, Davis concluded, Earth will establish an embassy in your capital. We'll share some of our technology, gradually, to help your civilization advance, but only if you prove you can use it responsibly. Vic stared at the terms, his proud bearing diminished. And if we refuse? The hologram changed again, showing the human fleet in orbit. More ships were still emerging from quantum space, each one carrying enough firepower to level a city. We're not asking, Davis said quietly. The Concordat's days of bullying other species are over. You can join the galactic community as equals, or you'll destroy us, Rex asked. No, Walker replied. We'll contain you. Every quantum rupture you've seen is a doorway. We can isolate your systems, cut off your supply lines, and disable your ships without firing a single shot. You'll be trapped in your own territory until you learn to play nice with others. Vix looked around the chamber at his fellow council members. Their empire had always been the strongest, the most advanced. But now, how? He asked finally. How did humans become so powerful without anyone knowing? Davis smiled. Because we learned long ago that true strength isn't about showing off your power. It's about knowing when to reveal it. He gestured to the Pioneer, still docked in their hangar. That's why we only needed to send one ship, because that one ship had the entire human fleet right behind it, waiting to see what kind of neighbors you would be. 3 months after the arrival of the human fleet, the Concordat's capital world looked very different. Ships from dozens of formerly enslaved species filled the skies, their people finally free to choose their own path. On the surface, Captain Walker stood with Admiral Rex, watching as another transport departed. That's the last group from the Meridian sector, Walker said, checking his tablet. 15 more worlds to go. Rex's scales had a healthier color now, though his pride was still wounded. You've dismantled centuries of Concordat expansion in just a few months. We've corrected centuries of injustice, Walker replied. There's a difference. Above them, human quantum ships blinked in and out of existence, maintaining their watchful presence. The Pioneer, now fully restored to its true form, sat in a place of honor in the spaceport, a reminder of how one seemingly helpless ship had changed everything. Inside the New Earth Embassy, Fleet Admiral Davis met with Commander Vix and the reformed Concordat Council. The chamber's displays showed real-time updates of the massive reorganization taking place throughout former Concordat space. Your cooperation has been noted and appreciated, Davis said, reviewing the progress reports. The transition is proceeding faster than expected. Vix nodded slowly. We had little choice. But I must ask, now that we've seen your true power, why didn't Earth simply conquer us? Why this elaborate deception with the Pioneer? Because conquest wasn't our goal, Davis explained. Real change had to come from understanding. You needed to see your own actions through the eyes of those you considered weak. Lead researcher Max burst into the chamber, his excitement overwhelming protocol. Admiral Davis, the quantum physics team, we've made a breakthrough. The principles you shared about space-folding technology, it's revolutionary. Davis smiled. Good. That's just the beginning. As your civilization shows it can handle advanced technology responsibly, we'll share more. But why share anything with us at all? Rex asked. After what we tried to do. Walker stepped forward. Because humanity learned long ago that the galaxy needs cooperation, not conquest. We don't want subjects or slaves. We want allies. The chamber's main screen lit up with a transmission from Earth's United Council. The president's image appeared, addressing the gathered representatives. People of the Concordat, she began. Today marks a new chapter in our shared history. Your empire chose to prey on those you saw as weak. We showed you that appearances can be deceiving, that one ship can carry the strength of an entire civilization behind it. Vix stood straighter. We've learned our lesson. The Concordat will never again judge a species by their apparent technology or military strength. Good, Davis nodded. Because there are more surprises out there in the galaxy. More civilizations watching and waiting, just as we did. Some even more advanced than humanity. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If humans could hide their true powers so effectively, who else might be doing the same? Walker checked his quantum communicator and smiled. The first diplomatic missions from the freed worlds are ready to begin negotiations for the new galactic coalition. A fresh start, with all species on equal footing. Rex looked out at the busy spaceport, where ships of all shapes and sizes now moved freely. All this change, all this progress, triggered by one seemingly damaged ship. That's the lesson we wanted you to learn, Davis said firmly. Never assume you're the strongest. Never judge by appearances. And never, ever think that a civilization would send just one ship into unknown space. As the sun set on the Concordat capital, the Pioneer's quantum drives hummed to life. It had played its part in reshaping this corner of the galaxy. Now it would return to Earth, leaving behind a transformed civilization that had learned a valuable lesson about underestimating strangers in space. Because humans never send just one ship. They send hope for a better future, carried on the wings of carefully planned deception and the promise of peaceful cooperation. And sometimes, that's the most powerful weapon of all.